It started with her suggestion, an open marriage, a way to keep things exciting. She told me it would make our relationship stronger, that it was just physical, that it didn't mean anything. I didn't want it. I believed in loyalty, in commitment, but she insisted. Said I was too traditional, that I needed to evolve with the times. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. She was thrilled. Immediately started seeing someone else. Thought she had won, that she had all the control. But she never expected me to play by the same rules. She never expected me to move on. And she sure as hell never expected me to start dating her best friend. Now suddenly she's jealous. Suddenly she wants things to go back to how they were. But that's the thing about opening a door like this. Once it's open, you can't control what walks through it. We had been married for 6 years. I wasn't perfect, but I was loyal. I loved her. I believed in us. She was the wild one, the free spirit, always looking for something new, something exciting. I knew that when I married her, but I never thought she'd take it this far. It started subtly. She began talking about modern relationships, how monogamy was outdated, how people weren't meant to be with just one person forever. I thought it was just conversation, just something she was curious about. I never imagined it was something she wanted to bring into our marriage. Then, one night over dinner, she dropped the bombshell. "I think we should try an open marriage," she said, smiling like she had just suggested trying a new restaurant. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh, to tell me she was joking. But she wasn't. She was serious. Dead serious. I asked her why. If she was unhappy. If she had already found someone else. She just rolled her eyes and said, "You're overreacting. This isn't about replacing you. It's about having more freedom. We limit ourselves." I told her I didn't want that I married her because I wanted her, not an arrangement where we both slept with other people. But she didn't let it go. She kept pushing, kept saying it was just physical, that it wouldn't change anything between us. Maybe I should have walked away then. Maybe I should have told her if she wanted to be with other people, she could do it without me. But I loved her. I was stupid. I wanted to make her happy. So, against everything I believed in, I agreed. And that was the moment I lost her. The moment I said yes, she lit up, like she had just won something. She kissed me, told me I was amazing for being so open-minded, that this would bring us closer. But the truth? It didn't bring us closer. It drove a wedge between us so deep that we'd never recover. She wasted no time. Within a week, she was already seeing some fitness coach she met at the gym. She talked about him casually, like it was no big deal. Like it was normal to come home to your husband and tell him about the guy you spent the night with. At first, I tried to be okay with it. I reminded myself that this was what she wanted, that she had convinced me this wouldn't change anything. But it did. She stopped trying in our marriage, stopped putting in effort. It was like I was just a roommate now, someone she saw in passing between her new dates. She dressed up for them, spent hours picking out outfits, putting on perfume things she hadn't done for me in years. And maybe the worst part? She looked happy. Like she had finally gotten exactly what she wanted. So, I did something I never thought I would. I played by the same rules. If she was free to see other people, then so was I. And that's when everything changed. At first, I didn't even want to see anyone else. The idea of it felt wrong. I wasn't wired that way. I believed in commitment and loyalty. But every time I saw her get dressed up for him, every time she came home smiling, texting someone while I sat in the same room, something inside me shifted. Why was I holding on to something that was already gone? So, I said yes when an opportunity came my way. I went on a date, then another, and to my surprise, it wasn't bad. It felt freeing, like I had permission to stop trying to be the husband she no longer cared about being a wife to. Then, the unexpected happened. I started talking to her best friend. Not on purpose. It wasn't planned. She reached out to me, said she had heard about the open marriage, wanted to check in on how I was handling it. At first, it was just conversation. Then, it became late-night talks. Then, laughter. Then, something neither of us expected. Connection. Unlike my wife, she actually cared about how I felt. She didn't treat me like I was some outdated idea of love. She didn't act like she was doing me a favor by allowing me to date other people. She listened. She understood. And then, one night, we crossed the line. We kissed. And suddenly, I understood why my wife had been so eager to experience this kind of freedom. Except there was one major difference. I wasn't using this to escape my marriage. I was realizing I had already outgrown it. That's when I knew I wasn't just playing by her rules anymore. I was moving on. At first, my wife didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't care. She was too busy with her adventures, too caught up in her new reality to pay attention to what I was doing. But then, she started seeing the changes. I wasn't sitting at home waiting for her anymore. I was going out. I was dressing better. I was laughing more. I wasn't asking where she was, wasn't checking in, wasn't waiting up for her. And that's when she started to get curious. "Who have you been seeing?" she asked one night, her tone light but her eyes sharp. I shrugged. "Just someone I met." She smirked, acting like she didn't care. "Good! That's the point of this, right?" But something about the way she said it didn't match the look on her face. Then she started noticing my phone buzzing, started noticing when I got texts late at night, started noticing when I was the one coming home late instead of her. And when she finally found out who I was seeing, that's when all hell broke loose. She came storming into the house one night, her face red, her hands shaking. "Her?" she spat. "You're seeing my best friend?" I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. "I thought we weren't supposed to ask questions about who we see. Wasn't that your rule?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "This is different." I raised an eyebrow. "How?" She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it, because she knew there was no good answer. She didn't expect me to actually enjoy this. Didn't expect me to find someone else, someone better. She wanted all the benefits, all the control. She wanted the thrill of being wanted by other men while keeping me as her safety net. But now that she had lost that control, now that I had something she couldn't touch, she hated it. She was jealous. She was losing. And for the first time in a long time, I was the one who felt free. She started acting differently after that night, more distant, more irritated. It was like the confidence she once had the thrill of an open marriage was crumbling right in front of her. She was the one who wanted this. She was the one who pushed for it. But now that I had actually moved on, she couldn't handle it. She started making passive-aggressive comments. "I just think it's weird that of all people, you had to pick her." I didn't argue. I didn't justify myself. I just reminded her, "You told me this wouldn't change anything, remember?" She tried to play it cool, act like it didn't bother her. But then the questions started coming more often. "Are you serious about her? Do you think she's better than me? Would you leave me for her?" And every time she asked, she looked a little more desperate for the answer she wanted to hear, but I never gave it to her. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be with her best friend in the long run. But I was damn sure I didn't want to be with her anymore. Then one night she finally snapped. She came home drunk, slamming the door behind her, her eyes wild with frustration. "I changed my mind," she announced. "I don't want this open marriage anymore." I leaned back in my chair, studying her, completely unfazed. "Oh yeah?" She nodded aggressively. "Yeah, I want to go back to how things were." I stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence settle between us before I finally spoke. "That's the problem," I said, my voice calm. "There is no going back." Her face twisted in anger. "So what? You're just going to leave me? For her?" I shook my head. "Number, I'm leaving you because you already left me a long time ago." She opened her mouth to argue, but there was nothing left to say. Because deep down, she knew. She had destroyed the foundation of our marriage the moment she invited someone else into it. She just never thought she'd be the one who ended up alone. She stood there, staring at me, waiting for me to take it back, waiting for me to tell her this could be fixed, that we could undo what she started. But some choices can't be undone. Some things, once broken, can never be put back together. She thought she could have it all, thought she could keep me as her backup plan while she chased excitement, thought I would always be there waiting in the background. But I wasn't that man anymore. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked toward the door. She didn't stop me. She just stood there, frozen, realizing what she had done, realizing that she had lost everything. I paused at the doorway, looked back at her one last time, and said the only thing left to say. You wanted freedom. Now you have it. Then I walked out. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt truly free.